After my Extinction retrospective, I got a surprising amount of people requesting me to cover Exo Zombies. Well, here we are. I am not a fan of Exo Zombies, which is a shame because it actually does quite a few things right. It has a simple to follow story with a ballsy mid-season twist, solid, albeit not incredibly complex characters, and a ton of new gameplay innovations. But ultimately, everything is undermined by a few easily fixable problems and a lack of community to developer communication. But rather than just throwing out a Rotten Tomatoes-esque consensus and calling it a day, let's actually discuss in detail exactly where this mode went wrong. Starting off, as we do, with a brief history of the mode. Unlike Black Ops 3 and Extinction, Exo Zombies didn't really undergo any major changes throughout its season. This was a very bad thing. You could have fixed this mode so easily. Even worse, Exo Zombies did not have a fully fledged on-disc map for players to get acquainted with the mode. Instead, the season truly began with DLC 1, Havoc. This was, in retrospect, a very poor way to start out. Having the mode locked behind DLC without even getting the chance to try it out, and it's just Treyarch zombies with the widely derided Exo movement system? Not the best way to get an already volatile audience on your side. It's also not great because these modes have always had trouble with telling their stories in a timely manner, so now they have even less time to flesh out their ideas. Except Extinction. But that one isn't zombies, so it could actually dish out the story effectively through intel and the such. Regardless, this lack of time becomes really apparent once we get to Carrier, and believe me, we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. But like I said, Exo Zombies was fairly stagnant throughout the season, so actually for the sake of consolidation, I'm going to shove Riot in here. Riot was a surprising little thing at the end of Exo Survival. Well, it was meant to be, but it got leaked before official release, so that was fucking great. Good job ruining the surprise, cunts. And in execution, serves as an intriguing teaser for a new take on Call of Duty Zombies. After acing every survival map, you play Riot, you beat round 10, and a bunch of mana cores come down. You black out, and when you wake up, it's all dark and spooky. Then boom, fucking zombies out of nowhere, and these ones don't fuck around. They're faster than ever, don't have goofy eye glows, and they squeal. They squeal a lot. Oh, and you have very limited weapons and equipment. All of this added up to an appropriately creepy take on zombies, and actually got me interested in where the season would go. Sadly, this awesome idea was never picked up on, and the mode instead settled for just taking Treyarch's tried and true formula.
Move your asses, get to the yard!
You haven't seen a zombie in an exosuit doing a boost jump, doing a boost move. That alone really makes the mode stand out. It really adds a ton of gameplay.
Very excited about all this. Can't wait for it to come out. It's going to be a blast to play.
It is the most robust DLC offering in the brand new Exo Zombies. We're really excited about Exo Zombies. It's a brand new take on zombies.
Outbreak, like most of these first maps, started out on really bad ground. The fanbase was already pissed that they had to pay $15 to even try the mode, and I can't stress this enough, there was no on-disc map. It's almost as if this was rushed into development shortly before launch. But that's just a theory. A game theory. Blow my fucking brains out. Now, as for the map itself, it's not bad per se, but it's completely unacceptable in 2015 zombies market. Allow me to explain. After the admittedly failed innovation of Transit and the success of Moon, Mob of the Dead, and Origins, zombies had evolved. It was deeper, more emotionally complex in the case of Mob, and the scale was, in the case of Origins, something we'd never seen before. So to have a map come out that felt like it just completely missed the last two games of Zombies evolution was a bit jarring, to say the least. The map feels, in terms of simplicity, like a World at War map. Or even worse, Kino. You know, one of the most uninspired bore fests in Zombies history.
Are you fucking stupid? Like, Kino is the pristine Zombies experience. How fucking dare you compare that to Outbreak? If you don't like Kino, you don't like Zombies, you fucking idiot. Like, do you even hear what's coming out of your mouth? Kino, you got the Pack-a-Punch, you got the Perk, you got a nice map. That's all you need. You don't have any stupid bullshit side quests to go on. Oh, boo-hoo, I can't go build some fucking craftable weapon. Go cry about it. You don't like Zombies if you don't like Kino. And Outbreak is so much worse. Are you stupid? Like, how can you even possibly compare those two? You should just... Fuck you, stupid. You're actually...
Yeah. That's neat and all, Eric, but I think the God Emperor put it best.
Wrong.
That is absolutely
Wrong.
proved over and over again.
Wrong.
Before we really dig into Outbreak, let's talk real quick about the things it does right, because believe it or not, this one isn't a complete failure.
That comes later.
Outbreak is much like Nightfall in that it starts a new story arc while using the small amount of story from the first installment as a jumping off point. The events are exactly what it says on the tin. The map shows the outbreak of Atlas's new bioweapon and introduces us to 4 new main characters. Security guard Jim Decker, IT specialist I'm fucking autistic and can't say the word Lilith. I just did it. Fuck you. The Atlas executive Khan and the ever-crotchety janitor Oz. Each character is well acted and has a distinct, albeit very basic personality that helps you understand them right off the bat. Decker's a hot-headed dick that feels the need to prove himself. Khan is a ruthless businessman. Lilith's a know-it-all techie douche. And Oz is a grumpy old war veteran who just wants to be left alone. A slightly aged cinnamon roll. Too pure for this world. Outbreak also has some nice gameplay features, with the standouts being the Cell 3 cauterizer, the Mark 25 weapon upgrade station, and a second Easter egg ending we didn't even know about until DLC 4. That last part is genuinely cool. Eat your fucking heart out, Revelations. But sadly, that's where the admittedly short list of positives end and the negatives begin. Like I said earlier, Outbreak is a decidedly simple and small map that lacks any real ambition. This makes for a rather boring outing, but even worse is the core gameplay. The core gameplay of Exo Zombies is so frustratingly obnoxious, it's hard to play for more than 30 minutes. Maybe this is what Eric meant when he said zombies shouldn't be played past round 20. It does a few things right, like introducing the 3-hit down system, removing the perk limit, and making it so you don't immediately lose all your perks when downed. But these few bright spots do almost nothing to drown out the unrelenting garbage this mode shoves down your throat. For starters, you start every game without an exosuit, so the core gimmick of the mode isn't available right off the bat. Great. Oh, and did I mention the exosuit areas are almost always death traps, and you lose the exosuit if you bleed out? So good luck getting one mid-round after respawning with how goddamn aggressive the zombies are. You know what, let's talk aggressive zombies real quick. I, for one, adore the idea of zombies posing more of a threat. But with this game mode, Raven does what Raven does best and fucks it up. Oh well, at least COD Online and MWR are okay. Instead of taking the path of Black Ops 3 and having super tough zombies that reward skilled players, they decide to cheat the player by adding in exo killers. Now, EMZs are widely regarded as one of the main things that crippled Exo Zombies, and this is one of the few instances where the community was 100% on point. These things are absolute poison. But what exactly makes them poison? Well, let's list off their abilities real quick. They can disable the player's exosuit on contact. Attempting to use your movement to dodge these hits results in an EMP blast that disables your suit. The EMP range supposedly increases the further in the game you go. EMP blast will distort your screen and vision. And EMP blast lasts for 5 seconds, and there is literally no in-game counter. So all of this sounds pretty bad, right? Well, how about we also add the fact that these are normal enemies with an incredibly high spawn rate. If you didn't get why these things are ruinous before, hopefully you do now. And don't even try to tell me, oh Rizzo, you just don't like challenge. Dude, I fucking loved Black Ops 3 and Extinction. There's a huge difference between challenging and being plain old unfair. EMZs are a broken enemy type, plain and simple. Worst part is, as obvious of a problem these things are, if you get rid of them, the game mode becomes far too easy. I mean, they were fucked from the get-go. Personally, I'd take that easy game mode over this unrelentingly asinine one any day of the week. And one last thing, the upgrade system. It's a fucking joke. I get the idea. Make it so the players always feel like they're just powerful enough to hold off the horde, but don't make them too powerful too quickly. However, this doesn't work because the zombie AI, the overabundance of EMZs, and close quarters map design don't gel with the upgrade mechanic in the slightest. The core gameplay of Exo Zombies is so infuriatingly ass-backwards that it's kind of hard to comprehend. Aside from the core gameplay, Outbreak falters in even more areas. The map is far too close quarters to properly utilize the exosystem, the Easter egg is more lackluster than Ascension's, and the traps are rather boring. I only bring that last point up because of how awesome they truly are in Infection, but shh, that's a secret sneak peek into the future of the video. Hashtag Foresight. So, overall, Outbreak is easily the most disappointing of the maps for me. It has a few genuine standout areas, but it's an okay map at best, dragged down by the obnoxious core gameplay. That's gonna be a recurring theme in this video, just you wait. There are worse maps in this series alone for sure, but the fact that it settled for being safe and forgettable rather than take any risks whatsoever or build on the success of its predecessor is the final nail in the coffin. This map would have been fine in 2011, but fact of the matter is, after Mob of the Dead and Origins, this just isn't enough anymore. And before you say, you can't compare it to Treyarch Zombies because this is their first go, allow me to retort with, if you're gonna copy paste the Zombies formula, you deserve to be compared to the competition. And you are not holding up so well.
Welcome to Burger Town.
Going into Infection, I had pretty low expectations. I think we all did. Outbreak failed to deliver anything special, but, you know, maybe it'll get good. Maybe Outbreak was a fluke and this one will be able to recover. And then came the reveal and, well, let me take you through my response to Infection's reveal back in the fabled year of 2015. Hey, it's a kill cameraman. Oh, Burger Town. That's neat. Wow, your vest textures look like shit. Wait, so is this whole thing set at the Burger Town? Oh, the EMZs are back. Well, okay. But I'm happy to report that this one is a vast improvement on Outbreak. However, I'm not happy to report that, spoiler alert, this map is as good as the season ever gets. But Rizzo, wasn't Infection the most community-derided map of the series? Probably. But I genuinely think this one pulled a Nightfall and learned from the mistakes of its predecessor. Actually, it's more like a Mayday because it decides to fuck up in one key area, but we'll get to that later. For starters, the map is much bigger than Outbreak, and more importantly, it's more wide open, meaning you can actually make good use of your exosuit. Talking about the general design, I love the more civilian environment of this one. It really sets the stage for a worldwide pandemic kind of story with super high What's that? Carrier completely abandons this idea? Well, that's just fucking fantastic. Alright. We'll get to Carrier soon, but for now, let's just focus on the good of this map, the traps. Oh, the traps are awesome in this one. From the electrified floor in Spawn, to the instigator and camouflage traps in the sewer, to the orbital strike at Burger King, all of them are unique and helpful, even in the higher rounds. Well, except the sniper trap in Atlas Command. That one kinda sucks. Also, I like the Goliath zombies, despite the fact that they're just big, dumb John Goodman looking motherfuckers.
This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass, Larry!
Their size and speed are as surprising as they are intimidating. The characters, they are significantly improved from Outbreak. While they're still rather simple, the actors seem much more comfortable in their respective roles, and their writing is less stiff. I also like the little moral dilemma between them of should we or should we not even bother saving these people. It's a nice little thing that, while admittedly somewhat of a trope, helps bolster the richness of the characters. Only bad thing I can really say about them is there's not enough dialogue. Unlike Treyarch Zombies and, God help me, IW Zombies, the amount of quotes is very limited. There's no more than 8 minutes of quotes per character here, as opposed to the standard 20 to 40 minutes of Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. There, I said one nice thing about Infinite Warfare. You happy, Sal? Now it's time to move on to the part where people actually start agreeing with me. The bad. Now, the map respectfully tries to shake the formula up by adding in the ultimately derided survival escort rounds, and while I personally don't hate these rounds per se, I certainly won't fight you on their quality. The survivor AI is incredibly frustrating, as they move slower than you can walk.
I literally can walk faster than you, holy shit.
And you pretty much have to hug them for them to move. And to add insult to injury, it's a little thing I know, but they'll actually attack zombies if they get too close to them while they're on the way to the flare, but once they get there, they conveniently forget that skill and just soak up damage like an asshole. And as for their predetermined paths, whoo, lad, these are bad.
What? No, what the fuck are you? What is wrong with you?
Yeah, going around the entire map is the best way to get to the Warbird. Fuck you. Okay, so you think these sound terrible and you would rather just not do them. Okay, that's fine. Here, just take this power drain that disables your exosuit, all power and buildables around the map, and you have to reactivate the generators after it's done. You like that? No? Well, whatever, you just don't understand our vision. Speaking of things that suck, toxic zones. Oh, you fucks. Like the upgrade system, I get the idea of them. They're there to force a player into adapting to every part of the map. And while it's certainly doable after enough playtime, it ultimately just comes off as someone at Raven rubbing their big stupid middle finger directly in your face saying, see this? The fuck you gonna do about it, faggot? Thanks for the $15. Aside from the toxic zones, this map has some smaller issues such as the new zombie types, with the exception of the previously discussed Walters and the armored zombies, which I actually kinda like. For starters, somebody thought it'd be hilarious to give the fastest type of zombie a shrapnel blast when shot. Then they thought, hey, let's make a zombie type that drops acid pools on the ground that blend in with the map's color palette. Remember how I praised the Cell 3 in Outbreak? Well, it's back in Infection and brings along a new friend, the Magnetron. And this thing is...
That's fucking unbelievable.
It's no doubt a cool weapon, but it doesn't come with nearly enough ammo, deals a surprisingly low amount of damage, and ultimately just serves as a novelty rather than something actually worth picking up past round 20. That's going to be a continuing theme going forward, just you wait. And one last thing, the Easter egg. It's far worse than Outbreaks. While that one sucked, it had the courtesy to at least make a little bit of sense. Whereas this one decided to just go off the rails immediately. The entire thing revolves around freeing the soul of the Burger King mascot Bubby, or something like that. Then you fire a missile from the burger that never comes back into the story, and at some point you make a poison burger with the Magnetron and a golden skillet. Then you disinfect it with a pad in the sewers. Revelations is more coherent, for Christ's sake. So, while Infected is the most community-derided map, I personally really appreciate the steps forward this one took. It improved its characters, the map design more effectively utilizes the potential of the exosuit, there's a bunch of awesome new traps, and an intimidating, yet mostly fair boss zombie. With all this taken into account, Infection is easily the high point of the series for me, even though it is admittedly heavily flawed, and ultimately falls back into the same obnoxious trappings later in the match.
His name is Lennox, works for Sentinel. They think they're the good guys.
While I personally may have liked Infection, kinda, most of the community did not, so Carrier had the challenge of winning audiences back while also introducing us to Lennox and setting up their finale. So, with all that riding on it, did it ultimately fall flat on its fucking face like most of these maps? Let's discuss. But the answer is yes. Picking up immediately after the events of Infection, Lennox executes Oz and reveals that Oz is actually the source of the Atlas infection. Naturally, none of our heroes believe him because it sounds like fucking nonsense, right? This is easily the most respectable part of Carrier. No other Zombies mode has killed off a main playable character and replaced them mid-season. As for the replacement, Captain Lennox is sadly a bit of a disappointment. Portrayed by the ever-lovable Bruce Campbell, Lennox's personality is... it's just Bruce Campbell. A large chunk of Lennox's dialogue is reused from Oz, and even worse, Bruce Campbell is simply not good in this map. He gets far better in Descent, but as for Carrier, his performance feels kinda just like he has to be there because it's Call of Duty.
Well, you have to work on Call of Duty because Call of Duty is the biggest game in the entire planet, so you're kind of an idiot if you don't.
Oh. It's not to say that Lennox is a complete failure. His interactions with the other characters are a nice addition, and it was interesting to see how each of our heroes deal with him and slowly come to the realization that there may be some truth to Lennox's accusations. As for the past relationship between Oz and Lennox, it's rather generic and poorly handled. When they both worked in Sentinel, they had a super competitive but respectful relationship, but rather than cleverly dole out the information naturally, Lennox just straight up exposition dumps us and says,
Atlas dropped a special DNA bomb on a prison. Oz was there. I know because he used to work for us. He was one of our best.
How about you fuck yourself? Speaking of Oz, he's heard in the map as hallucinations by our heroes due to the GS7 hallucinogens spilled all around the carrier. And this aspect of the map is actually pretty damn entertaining, and to this day, I'm still not entirely sure if this line was in character or not.
Oh, shit, I gotta read another one of these. Okay. Captain's Log, Day 12.
As for the gameplay, Carrier actually has a surprising amount of new gameplay elements in the form of the new perk Exo Stockpile that increases the player's maximum ammo and grenades held, treasure drones, teleport grenades, the repulsor, and 2 new power-ups in the form of Explosive Touch and Open Fire. And of course, one of the best parts of the map is easily Chompy the Zomboni.
You're about to be killed by a Zamboni!
All of these are solid new additions that make the rest of the map go down a bit easier. Well, now that we've got the short list of positives out of the way, it's as good a time as any to start talking about what this map does wrong. And believe me, there's quite a bit here. First and least sinful, the Easter egg is stupid and makes absolutely no sense. Again, but like I've said before, Easter eggs don't make or break a map for me, so it's more of a little thing than anything else. The map introduces a new zombie type in the form of the Blinker, a zombie with the ability to teleport short distances, and while it looks cool, they're ultimately just another annoying enemy type that just feels like another way to cheat the player. Stylistically, the map feels exactly like Outbreak. It's close quarters, lacks much color, and is plastered head to toe in Atlas logos. In addition to being stylistically boring, the actual map design doesn't flow very well at all. Perhaps even worse than Outbreaks. It suffers from the same problems as that map. It's comparatively small, and the close quarters nature of the map prevents you from effectively utilizing the main gimmick of the mode, Speaking of gimmicks, let's talk about the most damning part of Carrier. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about bomb defusal. So even after people hated the survivor objective rounds in Infection, Raven thought it would be a swell idea to throw bomb defusal rounds in with an armed Atlas strike team. But here's the kicker. If you decide to ignore them, the areas that the bombs detonated in will be covered in a toxic gas. And if both infection pads are contaminated, you literally cannot cure yourself. And if you fail all 3 bombs, a Goliath spawns in the following round and it can fucking teleport? What is wrong with you people? Oh, and did I mention that the bomb timers get shorter and shorter as the game goes on? You know, at this point, I'm convinced that someone at Raven actually has a large amount of contempt for their audience. They hate me, they hate you, they hate everybody. And finally, like I hinted at in the Infection segment, the new Wonder Weapon is just kind of lackluster. Sure, it's a cool idea admittedly, but it doesn't come with enough ammo and doesn't do enough damage. Spoiler alert, the fucking Trident is just like that too. So overall, after the relative progress made in Infection, Carrier is a resounding step backwards in the Extinction, huh? Are you sure about that? In the Exo Zombies series, despite some admittedly fun new gameplay elements, it's sadly an immediate return to the stupidly close quarters, stylistically boring Exo Zombies map, and fails to distinguish itself from Outbreak in these ways, and you all know how I felt about that map. At least that map had the common courtesy to not have objective rounds.
Yeah.
Here we are, the finale. Just a fair warning right up front, I'm gonna get pretty vicious with this one. But let's start with the positive, so it doesn't just seem like I'm blindly hating on the map without giving it the credit for the things it admittedly does right. I do like to consider myself a fair man after all. For starters, the new Atlas drop, the XS1 Goliath. This thing is a ton of fun to use, and I'm genuinely surprised something as unfitting yet fun as this is actually in an official Zombies mode and wasn't just relegated to custom maps. Next up, the Blunderbuss. This thing is wonderful. This is perhaps one of the most powerful and satisfying weapons in Zombies history. Not just Exo Zombies, mind you, zombies in general. The characters. Like I stated in the Carrier segment, Bruce Campbell and Lennox get much better here, and the relationships of the characters are a bit more defined. Decker's flirtation with Lilith is more prominent, Khan and Lilith finally start getting along a bit better, and Lennox's general impressions of Decker grow more positive. I loved how, despite the general consensus that Oz must die, Lilith still finds it genuinely hard to come to grips with that reality. What's even better is that the other characters are actually willing to comfort her a bit. It's a little thing, but I really love to see characters who hate each other grow to actually care for one another. Now, this crew's evolution is certainly nowhere near as masterfully done as the Origins crew, but it's still something worth commending regardless. So the characters are at their strongest, and some of the new goodies are fun to use. How could this possibly be my least favorite Exo Zombies map? Well, let's get into it, shall we? Per the norm, the Easter egg is terrible, but this isn't just any ordinary shitty Easter egg. Oh, no. The whole thing is literally just stalling. Oz plays some games with you like grenades and rockets only, and then you go in his memories and purge him from the Atlas computer system at the last minute. I think that's the general gist of it, but don't quote me on that. That sounds too dumb to be real. In terms of things that actually really matter, Descent suffers from the same problems as Outbreak and Carrier, in that it's too close quarters and has no real style of its own despite the location change. And like Carrier, the map introduces some new zombie types. I say new, but really they're just Frankenstein's monsters of the most annoying existing enemy types. There's the Telepopper, the Telespiker, the EMS, that's Electromagnetic Spiker, I made that up. And finally, and most sinfully, the Armored EMZ. All of these are straight up terrible additions. The blinkers were annoying enough on their own in Carrier, but now they have a bunch of bullshit abilities to make them more obnoxious. Wonderful. Speaking of obnoxious, let's not waste any time and talk about those Boss Oz rounds. These things are fucking unbearable. The first one just wastes time in a barely populated room with easy to avoid traps as you wait for 5 minutes for sweet old Angie to deactivate Oz's shields and then you shoot him. That's it. The second one, however, is so much worse. Around round 20, you have a mandatory boss fight with a heavily mutated Oz. And this fight is simply dreadful. Like the Kraken in Tree Takio, it's pretty much the same thing throughout. You hit Oz with the cleansing pad at the center of the arena and shoot his exposed chest. You do this exact same song and dance routine 4 times and then it's over. What a respectful and fulfilling end to a character, huh? And with that character end, we've come to the end of Exo Zombies.
That was not fun.
Time to see how it all wraps up. After killing Oz's mutated form, our heroes burn its corpse as Lilith vows vengeance on Atlas, followed by a where are they now-esque narration from Oz that seemingly wraps up the character's stories. You know, I've trashed this map quite a bit so far, but this was actually a really fun ending that tied everything together. Catchy song, nice bit of self-awareness, and generally solid Oz humor. Good job, Raven. Well, we're fading to black. Time to go home. Wait. No, don't you...
I still fucking hate the Atlas Corporation.
Oh, fuck you. Yeah, that makes any sense. Suddenly, out of literally nowhere, there's cloning technology, and the man, the former friend we've been fighting to kill this whole time, well, it turns out it was all meaningless, and there's 18 million more of him. That's fucking retarded. And no, I don't inherently have a problem with clones and shit, as some people do. Whether it's the worst Star Wars episode, that animated piece of shit, or the more recent Anti-Trump the movie, genetic clones can work. In all three of these films, it actually made sense and was an important part of the accompanying stories. Whether it's a bunch of shitty Boba Fett's in CGI armor, or the 11-year-old autistic murder ball, it works, because it was written by people who knew what the fuck they were doing, and also because it was an important plot point throughout the entirety of the story, and not just blatant sequel bait thrown in out of nowhere, you stupid assholes! Okay. Let's cool off a bit from that intentionally exaggerated rant and just finish this before I have a fucking heart attack. So, overall, Descent is easily the worst of the series. Sure, it admittedly takes a few steps forward by improving the characters and adding some cool new goodies to play with, but unfortunately immediately buries them under mounds and mounds of utter dog shit, forcing uninspired boss rounds on the players, turning Oz into a big stupid monster man, making yet another close quarters map that fails to properly utilize the Exo movement, adding in even more obnoxious zombie types that do nothing but annoy the player, and of course, to top it all off, the insulting sequel bait ending. All of this adds up to easily one of the worst zombies experiences of all time, and there's no contest. This is the worst ending to any of these co-op series we've ever been given, by a long shot. It's worse than 2016 Revelations, worse than 2013's Origins, worse than Exodus, which I know a lot of people fucking hate. Hell, it's worse than Buried, for Christ's sake. And now, wait, did I use this already? Oh, yeah, I did. I used that literally a paragraph and a half ago. But I'm gonna use it regardless. And now we've come to the end of Exo Zombies. It was rough, and most of it was honestly just plain awful. But for the sake of consistency, let's rank the maps. Number 1, Infection. I've liked this one since it came out, and it's still easily the best of the series, but does that necessarily make it all that good? Well, yes and no. Later on in the game, it's pretty fucking miserable because toxic zones ruin it, but for those first 25 rounds or so, this one is actually pretty solid and is the only one worth playing. Number 2, Riot. I don't know if this one really counts, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Riot was a really cool little teaser and actually felt like something a bit new for Call of Duty Zombies. It's just a damn shame they decided to not take advantage of the potential on display here. Number 3, Outbreak. Now, this map and Carrier are equally bad, and I had a genuinely hard time ranking one over the other as they're both terribly designed, close quarters trash that failed to meet my already incredibly low expectations going in. But ultimately, the bombs are what makes Carrier the more frustrating experience to play. Number 4, Carrier. While, like I said, just as bad as Outbreak in every way, it adds in bomb defusal, drops the ball with Linux, and introduced blinkers to the modes, so... yeah. Number 5, Descent. I had no trouble placing this one. From the poor map design, obnoxious forced boss rounds, and absolutely insulting cliffhanger, Descent is easily up there with the worst zombies maps of all time. Transit, Buried, Zombies in Spaceland, you name it. It's as insulting as Buried, as much of a chore to play as Spaceland, and as asinine as Transit. So, in conclusion, despite boasting a stellar cast, some interesting ideas, and a fair amount of innovation, Exo Zombies is ultimately smothered by horrendous game balance, maps that don't properly cater to the Exo movement, shitty gimmicks that no one fucking asked for, and a remarkable inability to learn from any mistakes. Actually, the mistakes got worse as the season went on. Yeah, give EMZ's body armor and spiker capabilities. What the fuck were you thinking? Were you thinking? Okay, let's get real for a second. All snark and comedic yelling aside, Exo Zombies is more disappointing than anything. There was so much potential here to make something truly unique and actually kind of special, but it sadly just never rises to the occasion. And ultimately, this mode's worst enemy was itself, not outside expectations, not comparing it to Origins or Mob of the Dead or what have you. It's just simply, it couldn't help itself. And that's ultimately what sunk it. Well, that's all for today. What did you think of Exo Zombies? Did you like it, hate it, or just think, it was alright I guess? Tell me what you think down below in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a great day.